In the criminal justice system, the people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups: the police who investigate crime and the district attorneys who prosecute the offenders. These are their stories.
Baby, you need to come bring me something to eat, 'cause I'm starving. What you mean I can't eat out on the corner? I'm professional. You got me out here in stilettos and booty shorts, and I can't eat out here because it's unprofessional? Oh, no.
What do we got?
Prostitute. Looks like a homicide. Signs of sexual assault and strangulation. Bruise marks on her neck and a few popped blood vessels in her eyes.
Any witnesses?
A working girl. I thought I'd let you question her.
Looks like someone beat me to it.
She's still trying to make her quota. Hey, move along, pal. She's closed for business.
You guys wouldn't know where the nearest cash machine is around here, would you?
Mike Logan? Hey, I thought you retired.
Yeah, well, I kind of heard the same thing about you.
Detective Benson. Olivia.
Good to finally meet you, Detective.
What brings you down here?
I'm working a lead on the Massapequa Mangler case. His first victim, prostitute named Angelica Moore. She was killed in my jurisdiction about 9 months ago. Been on it ever since.
Well, we appreciate the help.
We don't need it, but we appreciate it.
You have anyone you like for the Mangler?
A David Gondapour, a Robert Moffat, and an Ernest Limrose. All Johns who've been busted down here.
What's special about these guys?
They got noticed. Really above average creepiness. Moffat liked to use handcuffs, and Gondapour got busted for assault on Angelica Moore, but I got nothing to tie either one of them to the murders.
What do we know about the Mangler's M.O.?
All I know is he sexually assaults them, and COD is always strangulation. If your Vic's one of his, that'll be lucky number 8. Plus, he's smart. Takes his girls from different boroughs, but so far, he's dumped all of them in and around Nassau County.
Well, the M.O. matches. That much we know.
She's got a lock of hair missing, poor girl. That could be our souvenir.
Souvenir?
Each of the Mangler's victims is missing a lock of hair. They kept that info from the press.
That's interesting.
You know something?
Sex offender I busted years ago. Kept the same kind of souvenirs after each assault. And guess what? He's out on parole.
Do we have any reason to think our Vic can be connected to the Mangler?
CSU found some burlap fibers in the victim's hair. Same type of fibers showed up on 2 other victims of the Mangler.
Someone cut her up pretty good, though they look like mostly defensive wounds. If this is the work of the Mangler, I wonder why the change in M.O.
Not to mention the fact that we found her body on the same street where she worked, instead of in Nassau County somewhere.
Botched job, maybe? She got out of the car and he panicked?
So where is this guy now?
Last I heard, he was in violation. His P.O. hadn't heard from him in 9 months, maybe.
That's about when the killing started, right?
That's about when Angelica went missing. I'll sniff around, see what I can dig up.
Benson, should we go chat with the girl who found the body?
Hey, Curtis, I'm, real sorry about Deborah.
Thanks.
Girls doing good?
My oldest is looking at colleges, wants to teach special education.
Good. That's good. The clock's ticking on our witness here. What say we question her while she's still feeling cooperative?
What's your name?
Jenny?
That's your pimp who sent you a text message, isn't it? Give me his name and I can fix your problem.
All us around here got the same daddy. If I give you his name, these other girls would turn me in to get on his good side. That's how he plays us.
David Gondapur, Robert Moffat, Ernest Limrose. Those names mean anything to you?
Not to me. We call them Johns for a reason. No real names. That's how it works.
Did you know the girl you found?
Mm-mm. I ain't seen her but once or twice. Don't even know her name.
Come on, Jenny. You said all the girls out here have the same pimp. You know her name.
Wendy. She was a new girl.
Did you see the victim at all today? Before you found her like this?
No, she kept to her side of the street. I kept to mine.
Jenny, you said business was slow. As long as this guy is on the loose, no one is safe out here, including yourself.
I maybe saw her get picked up.
Did you get a look at her John?
It was a red van. That's all I saw.
And that was the last time you saw her alive?
Yeah.
You notice anything about this van? A license plate, a broken window? Maybe it'd been in an accident.
It was a funny kind of red. More like brick color.
That it?
Looked like any old regular van to me. Except for that.
Who was Wendy working for?
I don't know. I mind my own.
Come on, Jenny. You're no rookie. You know all the players out there.
I told you, I don't know who her daddy is.
You know what, Jenny? We can always take you to central booking, let you sit in the bullpen for a few hours, and try and jog your memory.
Arrest me? For what?
Jenny, give us the name of Wendy's pimp and we promise it'll never come back to you.
We call him Bankroll. He's out over on West 145th with all the other pimps.
Check it out. From this corner, you can see all the vehicle traffic coming in and out of this area. No wonder Bankroll hangs out here. He can keep an eye on the Johns cruising his girls. There he is. Let's go get him. Morning, Bankroll.
You talking to me? I didn't know we was acquainted.
Detective Benson, Detective Curtis, homicide.
Come on, man. I'm trying to read the paper and these people just got my latte right. Come on back later.
Relax, Bankroll. We just have a few questions for you. Wendy Crane. She was your girl, wasn't she?
Who, me? Hell nah. I don't know no girl named Wendy.
We did our homework, Bankroll.
All right, maybe she came to me for advice from time to time. That's all I'll say.
You see everything from this coffee shop, don't you?
Greatest show on earth, man. I ain't missed a night in 25 years.
How about a red van? Seen Wendy get into one of those lately?
Nah, nothing like that. Seen a sanitation workers van here last night. You know, New York's strongest. Maybe the cat you looking at worked for the city?
Wendy was your girl. I'm betting you watched her like a hawk. We know a red van picked her up last night.
Maybe not a red van.
What kind then?
I seen a white van down here a couple times. Figured it was just some bridge and tunnel CPA playing that plantation game. Got a sweet tooth for some brown sugar.
But it stuck out for some reason.
I remembered later that I seen Angel. That's Angelica. She got picked up in that same kind of van the night she went missing. Figured if I saw it again, I'd take care of business. But he never came back.
David Gondapur, Robert Moffat, Ernest Limrose. Any of those names sound familiar?
Who you think I am, man? The public library? I ain't asking people for no ID.
These guys would have stuck out. Not your typical John looking for a night away from Maud. They scared girls, even got physical with them. They were arrested. You'd know their names.
Man, it's always them cats from the suburbs. There was this Arab looking dude down here once or twice. He had money, but I had to run him off.
Arab-looking dude?
Yeah, man, you know, like Lawrence of Arabia and all that.
Lawrence of Arabia was English.
I know who Lawrence of Arabia is, fool.
Did he drive a red van?
Nah, drove a Escalade, white leather seats, nice. Scared Angelica real good, so we had a little conversation. Then the police showed up.
Then what happened?
I watched it all go down. Cops roll up. Arab fool would have got off with a warning if he could have stopped making words with his mouth. A few weeks later, he comes around again. Gives me 1,000 to have Angel keep her mouth shut. Ain't heard nothing about it since.
Uh-huh. So he roughed up Angelica, and you took a bribe to keep it quiet. Nice. Don't go on any vacations, Bankroll. We may need the pleasure of your company again. I'm not a big fan of racial profiling, but based on the physical description, sounds like we should talk to David Gondapur.
Lieutenant, how can I help you?
We have a potential suspect in the case, but let's just say we don't want to scare him off with our gritty urban vibe.
You want to use the DA's office? Leather chairs and expensive books.
We'll get a better interview if he thinks we're treating him like a witness instead of a suspect.
No problem. I'll set it up. Mike.
Abby, good to see you again.
Likewise. Thank you for coming in, Mr. Gandapur.
May I ask why I'm here, Miss Carmichael?
We're following up on some leads in regards to the Massapequa Mangler case.
The Massapequa Mangler. I'm afraid I'm not familiar. Do I need my solicitor?
That's entirely within your rights, Mr. Gandapur. But you're not a suspect. We just want to ask you a few questions.
Mr. Gondapur, we have an eyewitness who saw someone matching your description with Angelica Moore.
My description?
A man of Middle Eastern descent. About your height and build, similar vehicle.
I am no more Middle Eastern than Manhattan is Midwest America. I am Pashtun. My people hail from Pakistan and Afghanistan, Southeast Asia.
I apologize.
Perhaps one of your male colleagues should finish conducting the interview for you. They may have a firmer grasp of geography.
You live in Brookville, correct?
Gold Coast of Long Island. not far from Massapequa.
I also have an apartment on the Upper East Side and a home in Pelican Bay, Florida. Do you water ski, Miss Carmichael?
I'm really not a boat person, thanks. Have you ever been to West 141st Street in Harlem?
Harlem? Whatever would I go to Harlem for?
Mr. Gondapur, you were arrested for assaulting a prostitute on West 141st Street less than a year ago. Surely you remember.
Yes, of course. I did not realize that was in Harlem. Surely you must know then that the charges were dropped.
The woman you were accused of assaulting, Angelica Moore, was murdered not long after your arrest. She is believed to be the Mangler's first victim.
I am very sorry to hear, but my arrest was a misunderstanding. I was lost. I asked her for directions. She volunteered to show me how to find the George Washington Bridge for $10, I believe. I naively let her into my car where she threatened to blackmail me with some story of being attacked. The poor girl, I wish I could have helped her somehow.
You own a white 2011 Cadillac Escalade, correct?
Yes, as do a great many other people on Wall Street. 0% financing comes in very handy around bonus time.
How about a van? Those ever come in handy?
Certainly not. I could hardly take investors golfing in something like that. That's why I have the Escalade.
Again, we appreciate your time, Mr. Gandapur.
Feel free to call my office should you wish another appointment. Good day.
Ugh,
Do you think he's our guy?
I don't know. He was too slick, too prepared. Like he knew this would happen.
Well, then the pressure's on. Keep an eye on him. See if he makes a mistake.
Forensics?
They didn't find much, but the burlap fibers they found on our Vic contain traces of something called atrazine.
It's a pesticide. New York put it on the restricted list last year. Only licensed professionals can buy it. Pest control, farmers, landscapers.
Detective Curtis.
Benson, you remember the Mickey Trevino case?
Yeah, that was Cormac's collar.
The gun Trevino was using, he claimed to have found it hidden in the basement of his apartment building. Cormac was able to confirm. Here's a list of residents from 1998 onwards. Maybe you can do something with it.
Got it. We'll meet you there. Logan tracked down that sex offender who violated his parole. His name is Patty Jackson. Get this. He's working a landscaping job in Sugar Hill, 2 blocks from where our Vic was found.
Your case just got a whole lot more interesting. Keep me posted.
Patty Jackson, you're under arrest.
For what?
For what? You're in violation, Patty.
Nah, me and my PO, we got it all worked out. My probation transfer got messed up, that's all.
Well, there's our rust color. The van's got red priming paint all over it.
I'll keep an eye on him while you search the van. Know what you're looking for?
The fibers found on the victim were burlap, and we know the mangler likes to use zip ties and duct tape to bind his victims.
We found some crystal meth on Wendy. She had a lock of hair taken and she had been cut. I'm thinking the killer used a knife to scare her and then he used it to cut a lock of her hair when he was finished. There should be some blood in the van. I got some blood here.
Word to the wise, Patty. You kill a girl in your van, you should worry about cleaning the inside, not painting the outside.
That's mine. I cut myself on a hedge trimmer.
Burlap sacks of atrazine.
Hope you got your certified applicator license for that, Patty. That's a heck of a fine otherwise.
Duct tape. We'll see if the end piece matches up with any of the pieces found on Wendy.
This is interesting. You wear a lot of jewelry, Patty?
I made that. I sell them at flea markets and stuff. It's not a restricted item.
Whoa, looks like crystal meth. You trying to lose weight, Patty?
That ain't mine.
Zip ties. Could be used in his line of work. We'll see if they're the same type as the ones found on the Mangler's other victims.
All right, Patty, I've seen enough. You're coming downtown.
You don't need to do that. I'll report on Monday, I promise.
Save it for the judge. Your parole officer says hi. Says he hasn't seen you in over 9 months.
Your apartment was almost empty. You staying somewhere else? Hotel, maybe?
I hate hotels. They remind me of the joint.
So what happened, Patty? Did Wendy fight back? Is that why we found her in Harlem instead of some swamp in Nassau County?
Tell me this, smart guy. Any chance you ran into Wendy in Harlem? In your brand new white van?
I never saw that girl before, I swear.
Never, huh? We have a witness that saw you pick up Wendy Crane the night she was killed, Patty.
Okay, look, maybe she was in my van. I was in jail for a long time, you know? If I break the law, I'm in violation. That's why I lied.
You saying Angelica Moore never got into your van. Can you think why a witness might have seen that happen?
I don't know who you're talking about.
We have a witness that saw Angelica Moore get into your van before you painted it.
We're not getting anywhere. Let's just book him for violating his parole, and we'll charge him for the murders when forensics gets back to us.
No, wait! Angelica wasn't my fault. It wasn't even my idea to pick her up. It was his, honest.
Patty, if you had an accomplice, now's the time to tell us.
This guy, he had a thing for Angel, okay? He tried to pick her up once and something happened.
What was his name?
I don't know, okay? It was just a one-time thing. He gave me a name and told me to bring it to his place so they could party, okay?
Great. Why don't you show us where his place is?
Actually it was, it was in my hotel room. One of those no-tell motels. I don't even remember which one.
Enough, Patty. I know cops at Rikers who owe me a favor. They can make your visit there really uncomfortable.
I'm telling the truth, I swear!
You said this guy tried picking up Angelica before, but something happened. Any chance he was 5'6"? Arab descent?
I already said too much.
You tell us who he was, right now, and we can work out a deal with the DA. You wait, and you go down alone. All alone.
Let's try this again. 5'6", Arab descent.
You know him!
The Arab guy. Who is he?
Or are you so stupid you never even got his name?
He ain't Arab, he's Pashtun. He don't like to be called Arab. I think I want a lawyer now.
First smart thing you've said so far. I knew Gondapur was hiding something.
We have no physical evidence tying Gandapur to any of the murders. Believe me, if Gandapur's involved somehow, I'd love to nail him. But we don't have nearly enough for a warrant. Find a connection between him and Jackson. Sorry, but that's the best I can do.
Patty's parole officer was able to get us his employment file and several other records from the landscaping company where he worked.
You think Gondapur was one of Jackson's customers?
The landscaper he worked for had clients all over Long Island. It's possible. Patty Jackson placed a call from his work phone to David Gondapur on October 20th.
The same day Gondapur paid $227, which Jackson collected. Looks like we found our paper trail. Mr. David Gondapur, we have a warrant to search this property for evidence relating to the murders of Wendy Crane and Angelica Moore.
Very well, please, come inside. Shall I have some iced tea made?
Actually, we'll start with the garden shed if you don't mind.
When's the last time you were in the shed, Mr. Gondapur?
I suppose I am in and out quite often. I like to do some of my own gardening. It relaxes me. Mr. Jackson and I have become fast friends as a result. He is quite talented.
I'll keep an eye on Gondapur while you have a look.
Found some blood on this cutting tool. Could be Wendy's. More burlap sacks of atrazine. The shed would make a perfect place to assault a victim. It's hidden, inaccessible. No way the nearest neighbor could hear anything. No surprise to find a shovel here. But if any of the dirt found on it matches the soil in which the Mangler victims were buried, that'd be powerful physical evidence to convince a jury. Zip tie. Same brand, same color as we found in Patty's van. Forensics may even be able to tell if they're from the same store-bought pack. More duct tape. Same as the kind we found in Patty's van. Air freshener. Could be the same type used in Patty's van to hide the smell of decomp. Forensics will be able to tell me if it's a match. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you.
Mr. Gandapur, where is your counsel?
I choose to represent myself in this matter, Your Honor.
Your Honor, Mr. Gandapur has ample resources with which to hire a whole team of lawyers experienced in defending clients charged with capital crimes.
Actually, Your Honor, my alleged co-conspirator and I wish to be tried together. We will be co-counselors, Your Honor.
Your Honor, we cannot have one defendant putting another on the stand.
Mr. Gandapur, are you and Mr. Jackson willing to be held responsible for your knowledge of court procedures, your ability to adequately cross-examine, and communicate your side of the story efficiently and effectively?
We are, Your Honor.
Then I see no problem with you representing yourself pro se. How do you plead?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
Not guilty?
Well done, Mr. Jackson. The rest of you will see you at trial.
It doesn't take much imagination to see what's going to happen here. They'll each point the finger at each other and create enough reasonable doubt, and both of them will walk.
And acting as their own defense will give them total access to each other. Plenty of time to get their story straight.
Yeah, but Gandapur is a shark. He'll figure out how to put this all on Jackson somehow while he walks.
Then get Jackson to roll on him first.
Jackson's a sex offender on parole accused of murdering 8 women. What can we offer him other than life in prison?
A chance to tell his side of the story without Gandapur pulling the strings. Shoot for the moon. If that doesn't work, divide and conquer.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth without omission?
I do.
What makes you think Patty Jackson and David Gandapur are co-conspirators in the deaths of these women?
Aside from the physical evidence, I believe Jackson worked for Gandapur.
How so?
I believe they form what's called a dominant-submissive pairing you sometimes find with serial killers who work together. As partners, they were able to fulfill each other's appetites. Jackson for sexual violence, Gandapur for murder.
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll rephrase. Based on the physical evidence, how, in your professional opinion, did Mr. Gandapur and Mr. Jackson work together to commit these murders?
Judging from the physical evidence found on the victims, and in Mr. Jackson's work vehicle, and in Mr. Gandapur's garden shed, Mr. Jackson would visit a place frequented by prostitutes, where he would pick one up, get them high on crystal meth, bind them, take them to Mr. Gandapur's shed, where they were sexually assaulted, and then murdered.
What caused you to think of Mr. Jackson when you became involved in the hunt for the Massapequa Mangler?
When I found out a lock of Wendy Crane's hair was missing.
Why was that significant?
Patty had the same MO with the women he raped.
Objection! I am not a pervert!
Mr. Jackson is a convicted rapist. The locks of hair he took from those women were trophies, souvenirs, if you will.
Overruled.
Most of the Mangler's victims were found in shallow graves around Nassau County, but Wendy Crane was found in Harlem, in plain sight. Can you explain?
Patty didn't follow the plan. You see, Wendy had defensive wounds on her hands and on her arms. Something went wrong in the van. Patty panicked and he strangled her, then got spooked and tried to dump the body right there.
But not so spooked he couldn't stop and take a lock of her hair.
Correct. He had a knife, and I believe those trophies to be extremely important to him.
Objection! Innocent until proven guilty.
Overruled. Innocent until proven guilty is a civil right, Mr. Jackson, not a basis for objection.
We appreciate your time, Detective Logan.
Mr. Logan.
Detective.
I bet you got a nice fat promotion when I got pinched, didn't you?
That's not the way it works.
You put the blame on me because you couldn't solve your case and you thought you were gonna get fired.
No.
Objection. Badgering.
Sustained. Move on, Mr. Jackson.
You're trying to ruin my life to protect a bunch of whores.
Objection, Your Honor. Badgering.
Mr. Jackson, I'm way past regretting the decision to allow you to defend yourself.
If I may, Your Honor, I would like to continue the cross-examination.
Keep it on point, Mr. Gondapur.
I am most curious, Detective Logan. How did you form your opinion on how my landscaper and I collaborated in the murders of these women?
I've been a detective for over 25 years, mostly in homicide.
Are you a psychologist?
No.
Criminal profiler? Any professional training on the psychology of serial killers?
No.
Well, your opinion can hardly be valid, can it?
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative.
Sustained. Enough, Mr. Gondapur.
What physical evidence did you find to suggest that either myself or my co-defendant are guilty of such ghastly crimes as the one suspected of the so-called Massapequa Mangler?
Burlap fibers found in Wendy Crane's hair matched that found in Patty Jackson's van and in your garden shed. Probably most telling was a cutting tool we found in the same shed with Wendy Crane's blood on it. There was also duct tape and zip ties found in the van and the shed that were an exact match for ones found on other victims.
Anything in my home?
Not that I'm aware.
So you found evidence in Mr. Jackson's van, evidence in my garden shed which Mr. Jackson had access to.
That's right.
None of my DNA nor hair samples, nor fingerprints found on any of the victims.
No, you were very careful in that regard.
Just one more question, Detective Logan. As a hedge fund manager, I made $25 million last year alone in salary and bonuses.
That's nice.
Do I sound like the type of person who does his own gardening?
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative.
Sustained.
I object to.
What is this, some kind of Marx Brothers routine? Get your ducks in a row, gentlemen, or I'll start holding you in contempt.
Sit down, you imbecile. No further questions, Your Honor.
Gentlemen, to what do we owe the pleasure?
We've come to make you an offer, Mr. Cutter. One I think you'll find quite generous given the circumstances. What if Mr. Jackson were prepared to admit to being the Massapequa Mangler?
Just Mr. Jackson?
Manslaughter 2 for my co-defendant. 10 years, eligible for parole in 5.
And you walk away with what? A ticket for littering?
Aiding and abetting. 5 years in a minimum security prison where I am allowed to continue to manage investment funds for clients.
Is this a joke?
No deal, Mr. Gondapur. Take my advice and spend some of that money of yours on a lawyer. See you in court.
Mr. Jackson, when did you begin working on my estate in Brookville?
About 9 months ago.
Around the time the first of the Mangler's victims was found.
What? Yeah, I guess.
Earlier, Detective Logan speculated that we formed a dominant submissive pairing, with you as the submissive. Could he be correct?
Objection. Your Honor, the witness has no expert knowledge of the subject.
Sustained. Direct your questions elsewhere, Mr. Gondapur.
No way. I make my own decisions.
Mr. Jackson, the objection was sustained. If you don't know what that means, then I suggest we take a recess so your lawyer can explain it to you.
But I'm my lawyer.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The police found physical evidence relating to the murders inside your work van, did they not?
Yeah, but that van belongs to the landscaping company.
Did anyone else have access to it?
Sometimes. Sometimes I'd leave it at the nursery. The other guys could have used it.
So many people with so much access to so much evidence. It would be very hard to say definitively who did what, wouldn't it?
Objection, Your Honor. Your Honor, defense is leading the witness.
Find a new line of questioning, Mr. Gondapur.
The police found some burlap sacks in my garden shed. Fibers from the burlap matched ones found in Wendy Crane's hair. Do you have any idea how those fibers got on the victim?
No idea.
What were they for, those sacks of yours?
I bought some pesticide called atrazine. I have a license to buy it.
And you really have no idea how fibers from those sacks got on poor Miss Crane?
Objection, Your Honor. The question has been asked and answered.
Sustained.
Well, what are you asking me that for?
What about the cutting tool, Patrick? The one found in the shed. It had Wendy Crane's blood on it.
I don't know. Maybe someone was doing stuff in the shed, like at night. I didn't see it, or I would have called the police.
You have to admit it is damning evidence against the two of us, really. I mean, it was my shed.
I guess so.
You guess so. How did a bloody knife get into my shed without you noticing a thing?
I don't know.
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative.
Sustained. Move on, Mr. Gondapur.
The cutting tool we found in the garden shed, the one with Wendy Crane's blood on it? I suppose you don't know how that got there either.
Nope.
What about the fibers found in Wendy Crane's hair? The ones from the burlap sacks of atrazine in the shed, ones you put there.
I didn't bring anyone back there, okay? It could have been him, you know.
Blood taken from your van was found to contain Wendy Crane's DNA. How did it get there?
I don't know.
Was Wendy Crane ever in your van?
No.
Well, I'm confused, Mr. Jackson. Because according to the statement you made to detectives, you claim to have let Wendy Crane in your van to solicit her services as a prostitute.
That's not true. They made me say that.
Did they put her blood in your van too?
I don't know how it got there, but it wasn't me.
Let's see if I can paint an accurate picture of what happened to these women.
You do what you want. I'm through talking.
You pick a girl, you put them at ease, you give them some crystal meth to disorient them.
I don't give those chicks nothing. They bring it if they want it.
Exhibit A, one jewelry box of your own design, found in the van you drove, with crystal meth inside a hidden compartment. You're quite the carpenter, Mr. Jackson.
Fine, yeah, it's mine. That doesn't prove I'm a killer.
Your co-counsel has been strangely quiet, Patty. Even you have to know he could have objected a dozen times to what I've had to say so far.
Why aren't you trying to stop her? She's badgering me, right?
Mr. Jackson, what will happen to you if you take the fall for the murders of these 8 women?
I guess Mr. Gandapur would go free.
Objection, Your Honor. Mr. Jackson doesn't know that. It's conjecture.
Sustained.
So you found your voice after all, counsel. No more questions, Your Honor.
So what do you want, Mr. Jackson?
I want a deal.
Oh? What's your lawyer think?
Gandapur thinks I'm an idiot, but I know when I'm being set up.
You're a little late to that party, but I guess you got there. What are you offering?
Say I know what happened to those girls. Say I was there. Say maybe I had something to do with it, but I didn't kill them.
That might be worth something.
Accessory after the fact? That's 7 years no parole, but it's got to be concurrent with the time I got break-in parole.
Concurrent?
Yeah, sometimes you can learn useful stuff in prison.
You're looking at 5 years just for breaking parole, Patty. You think my boss is going to accept 7 for being an accessory to 8 murders? 15 years, in addition to the 5 you have coming. No parole.
You can't get Gandapur without me. 10 years. I do the 5 I got coming, concurrently.
Okay, let's hear it.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I realize this is unusual, but it's important that you know Mr. Jackson has agreed to plead guilty to the charges against him. This means Mr. Jackson and Mr. Gandapur are no longer co-defendants. Mr. Jackson now testifies for the people. The prosecution may proceed.
Mr. Jackson, how did you and Mr. Gandapur first get to know each other?
I started getting the grounds around his house ready for spring. I told him I was on parole. He asked what for. I told him.
For rape, correct?
Yeah, I thought for sure he'd tell my boss not to let me come back, but he seemed really interested. Kept asking me questions about it.
Did you personally see Mr. Gandapur with any of the women he is charged with killing?
Yeah, all of them.
Tell us about the first.
It was the night we just had one girl at the house.
That was Angelica Moore, correct?
Yeah, she changed her mind, wanted to leave. Mr. Gandapur held her down while I raped her. When I was done, well...
Keep quiet!
Last chance, Mr. Gandapur. Remain silent or I'll have you removed.
Gandapur goes, we better make sure she doesn't say anything to anybody.
What did he mean?
I go back to jail, so he killed her.
Why not go to the police after the first murder? Why not testify against Mr. Gandapur?
I'm a convicted rapist out on parole. He's a millionaire. Whose story the police gonna buy?
Did you ever bring prostitutes to Mr. Gandapur's home at his request?
Yeah, a lot of them.
That is a lie!
Mr. Gandapur, sit down.
Go on, Mr. Jackson.
First, he had me bring back hookers to the house 2 at a time. We'd party together, do some ice, that's crystal meth. At least I would, and the girls would.
Objection, Your Honor. The witness's story is complete fabrication.
Overruled. You'll have your chance to cross, Mr. Gandapur.
What happened with Wendy Crane?
I get her into the van, give her a little meth. She said she was up for whatever, so I pulled out my knife to tie her up. She starts freaking out. She's hitting me.
Then what?
She jumps out of the van, screaming her head off. I just kind of put my hands around her throat, just to shut her up, you know? But before I knew, she ain't screaming anymore.
What became your pattern?
I'd go and find girls, bring them back. I took them to the garden shed, we'd party. Then Mr. Gondapur would kill them, strangle them.
How many did he kill, Patty?
I don't know. 6, 7? That's what the newspaper said. I tried to forget him. I want the jury to know I'm really sorry about how this all happened. I never would have done this if it wasn't for him.
I object to this character assassination!
Mr. Cutter, please instruct your witness to limit testimony to the question asked.
No more questions, Your Honor.
I demand a mistrial.
Motion denied. You asked for this circus, Mr. Gondapur. I'm going to see it through to the end. We'll let a higher court decide if justice was served.
Very well. I can prove this man acted alone. The evidence is at his apartment. I demand we send detectives to search it again.
Objection, Your Honor. The defense is stalling for time. Patty Jackson's apartment has already been thoroughly searched by investigators who found nothing.
Thoroughly, huh? Have you checked in the walls, in the crawl space, under his bed?
Court is recessed for the day. Counselors, I want to see you in my chambers.
Cannot believe the judge approved Gondapur's request.
Nothing surprises me with this trial. Any clue from Jackson on what this evidence could be?
None. He won't talk.
I don't like it.
Gandapur knows that any evidence we find has to be turned over to him. It's what he's counting on. But why?
Whatever it is must implicate Jackson as being the real ringleader.
Wait a minute! The police never found the souvenirs taken from the victims, the locks of hair that were missing.
That was Jackson's MO when he committed those rapes in Washington Heights. If the search reveals trophies like that in his apartment, it would go a long way to convince a jury that Jackson was responsible for the murders, not Gondapur.
Get this. When detectives searched Jackson's van, they found a small jewelry box with a false bottom. Patty was a carpenter. He used the jewelry box to hide the crystal meth he used to disorient his victims. I'm willing to bet that's what Gandapur wants us to find in Jackson's apartment.
He knows it's there, but he wants us to find it. That gives him total deniability while nailing Jackson to the wall.
Call Logan. He might be able to help us thread a pretty small loophole here. I'm going to take a walk. From this point on, keep me out of the loop.
Hey, Abby. It's Mike Logan. I found something.
Don't tell me what it is.
Don't worry, I know the rules. I'll file my report after you guys conduct your own search. Just, tell the uniforms not to shake the present too hard. Might break what's inside.
Thanks, Mike. You're a lifesaver.
Why don't you thank me with dinner?
Remember, this isn't gonna work unless he gets good and angry.
Don't worry. I have a special talent when it comes to infuriating people. Mr. Gondapur, you stated at the close of trial yesterday that investigators were to search Mr. Jackson's apartment again for evidence pertaining to this case.
Indeed.
They didn't find anything.
I am well aware.
What was it about Angelica Moore, Mr. Gondapur? Why is it you were so fixated on her that months after you were arrested picking her up, you sent Mr. Jackson here to kidnap her for you?
She was a woman in need who I tried to help and who took advantage. That is all. The arrest was a misunderstanding and the charges were dropped.
Misunderstanding? Are you sure? Because I have an affidavit by one Donald Deschamps, aka Bankroll, an associate of Angelica Moore's who swears under oath that Angelica changed her testimony after he received a bribe on her behalf of $1,000.
That is ridiculous. He must have me confused with someone else.
Oh yeah, another person of Arab descent in Harlem who was arrested for assaulting Angelica Moore shortly before her death.
Are you trying to get a rise out of me, Mr. Cutter?
It doesn't seem to take much, Mr. Gondapur. What did you want us to find in Patty Jackson's apartment, Mr. Gondapur?
What makes you think I expected you to find anything?
Under his bed. Yet detectives did a full sweep of the apartment and found nothing.
A chest! A small wooden chest! How could they miss it?
Yes, one wooden chest. Exhibit C, let's call it.
There! That's it! That will prove my innocence!
Mr. Gondapur, could you explain to the court how an empty wooden chest will prove you innocent?
Are you an imbecile? Give it to me! There! There, you see? He took a lock of their hair. I saw him do it to each girl. You didn't think I knew, did you? Nothing gets past me, you mongoloid! No. No, wait. I didn't mean that I'd...
No further questions, Your Honor.
No. I demand a mistrial. No!
The prosecution rests, Your Honor.
Mr. Gondapur?
The defense rests, Your Honor.
The jury is to retire for deliberations. I'll send along jury instructions shortly. Court adjourned. Has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?
We have, Your Honor.
Please read the verdict as it stands recorded.
In regards to Mr. Gondapur, as to counts 1 through 8, homicide in the first degree, guilty.
By this time tomorrow, I'll have the best law firm in Manhattan working overtime on my appeal.
I might do some comparison shopping if I were you. Your board of directors voted to have you removed.
So Patty Jackson goes back to jail and Gandaper gets multiple life sentences without parole. Well done.
Nice to see that the super rich are still held to the same standards of justice as the rest of us, once in a while.
At least until his appeal.
To the rest of us.
Is that what I think it is?
Briscoe's Little Black Book of Unsolved Cases.
How did you...
Uh-uh-uh.
Right. I don't want to know. Hold on. Frank Vincenzo Jr. I recognize that one.
Do tell.
He was a tenant in the apartment building where that Glock 17 was found.
Got a forwarding?
According to this, he's still a tenant.
Thank God for rent control.